Barry, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I would. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, today we heard extensive testimony about Amendment 1445H, and we have received hundreds of emails. Unfortunately, this amendment is very necessary, but it shouldn't be. We should not have to assert our right as a state to push back against the federalization of our elections. DC politicians feel that they can run our elections better than we can. Even though we have some of the loosest election laws in the country, SB 1, or the so-called For the People Act, would actually make them even looser. If the DC politicians who crafted this bill were accurately naming it, they would have called it the For the Politicians Act because of the extreme giveaways in it, such as a taxpayer funding of political campaigns. Today, I asked several times where our federal delegation is. Why couldn't they be bothered to come and speak about this amendment and the For the People Act? Not even one submitted a written statement or sent a surrogate to speak on their behalf. We also heard today that none of them have spoken to the Secretary of State's office about how this would affect New Hampshire or why they are supporting it. I find the arguments against this amendment to be incredibly disingenuous. First, they tell us that we will be costing the state a lot of money and being forced to hold 2 elections. Let's be clear about something. The only people who are forcing the state to do anything is our federal delegation in Washington, D.C., who, despite spending the last 7 months telling us how great the New Hampshire election was, now are catering to their out-of-state donors and trying to undermine New Hampshire's process. Next, they tell us that we will be making it more confusing for voters. But let's be serious for a minute. The only one proposing real changes to how we vote are the politicians peddling S1, telling us how great it will be to turn over control of our elections to unelected bureaucrats. Finally, they tell us that the federal government has the right to run our elections. This is the core of our disagreement. Who should control our elections? Is it New Hampshire or DC bureaucrats? For me, the answer is clear. I pick New Hampshire every time. I will choose Secretary Gardner over Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer every single time. I would like to address one thing out there that is not true. On April 11th, Senator Hassan went on WMUR and said, quote, "The For the People Act, it really doesn't change the way New Hampshire would run its elections. The way it runs its elections already fits the requirement." But the senator is either lying or ignorant as to the effects of S1. S1 would dramatically change.
Madam Chairman, point of order. I would submit that the gentleman's previous remarks relative to the senator are out of order.
They are my remarks. It is not true from what we've heard from the Secretary of State's office. S1 would dramatically change how New Hampshire conducts our elections. It would require us to allow ballot harvesting up to 10 days after the election.
Mr. Chairman,
IDs.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, you did not rule on my point of order.
It's noted, Representative Cody.
Does that mean you ruled on it?
Well, Representative Barry has already made that comment. It's already out there.
Well, yeah, but my point is that his comment relative to Senator Hassan is out of order.
I'll take that under advisement, Representative Cody. I'm not prepared to make the ruling at this time.
May I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
S1 would dramatically change how New Hampshire conducts our elections. It would require us to allow ballot harvesting up to 10 days after the election. And it would ban voter ID, which is extremely popular, including with support of over 50% of Democrats. The committee members who are about to vote against this have spent the last 6 months telling us New Hampshire elections are well run. So why are they now not standing with us under the very simple proposition that New Hampshire should continue to run its own elections? The same ones that we're claiming are so well run. Let's be very clear about the vote we're about to take. We will get to see where we as committee members stand. Do we stand with New Hampshire and our voting institutions, or do we side with DC politicians? This is a battle of choice, and the options are as plain as day. Do you stand with a congresswoman from San Francisco and a senator from New York City, or do you stand with the people of the Granite State and the voters that elected you to your office?